in this month, and we have a collaborative effort between many parties. To my right, I have Brandon Brown, who's the U.S. Attorney for the Western District, Stephen Dwight, the District Attorney here in Calcasieu Parish, Tony Celestine, who is the Office of Juvenile Justice Program Director, Evan Patterson with the FBI for our district here in our region, and Franklin Vondell representing the Chief of Police. Deputy Chief Franklin Vondell, excuse me. As you see on the screen, we have it's not just these offices either. So in the coming days and coming months, you're going to see a lot more, but we wanted to kind of roll out what our role was and our human trafficking task force, and I'm going to this was the brains of and the start of something that the U.S. Attorney's Office wanted to set forth in motion and get started. So they deserve all the credit, and I want Mr. Brown to come up if he doesn't mind and start it off, and then I'll speak, and the DA and Mr. Celestine. So Mr. Brown, if you would go first.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Brandon Brown. I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Louisiana. Human Trafficking Awareness Month is very near and dear to our office. This is the brainchild of former U.S. attorneys that stood before me. And we started one of these task force in northwest Louisiana back in 2019. And it always, or maybe in 2018, and it always was our intentions to do the same here in the southwestern part of our district. Then COVID hit, and unfortunately, we were unable to get the ball rolling, but we have now, thanks to the valiant efforts of our Project Safe Childhood Coordinator and Assistant U.S. Attorney Earl Campbell, and our first Assistant U.S. Attorney Alexander Van Hook. These two gentlemen have spearheaded the effort in the district. We hope to take these task forces to other parts of the district. In the northern part of our district, where we presently have the task force, that task force has done great things in conjunction with Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office, the Shreveport Police Department, and other local law enforcement agencies, as well as other state agencies who cater to youth, who cater to victims of human trafficking. So we hope to be able to, for lack of better words, set the least of these free. And what I mean by that, human trafficking victims are some of the most vulnerable victims that there are. And a lot of times what you'll find is that they come from broken homes, they come from bad situations. They don't come from as fortunate of situations, upbringing, and backgrounds as we have. And they have issues, and because of that, they're taken advantage of. So that our efforts are aimed at trying to give them some justice, but not only them, their families. Because believe it or not, I have the position that not only are the initial or immediate victims, but the victims' families are victims. And they all need help. That's why you have people like Mr. Celestine and other nonprofit, community-based organizations that can kind of take the reins in terms of counseling and assistance in that regard. And we appreciate the sheriff for allowing us to come here today in order to launch this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. He hit on some key topics, and I want to build on that and tell you what our part is as a group. Is the U.S. Attorney's Office asked us to put a group together to formulate this, and now we still have a lot of work to do. We have to put a nonprofit together. We've met with several of our casinos. We're going to start teaching and going out. This group is going to put together a series of classes to go out and teach people how to recognize this, from our casinos and hotels and this is where we're going to start, to our convenience stores, to recognize some of these vulnerable, at-risk people and then give them the help they need. Look, I can tell you a couple stories of a couple cases that we've had that were very tragic, and we were able to help these people out of that hole, because some of these people think there's no other life. They're thrown into this, and they're beaten down, and they're worn down, and a lot of times because of their status in life and where people view them, they feel like nobody will listen to them. We will listen to them. We don't want this to happen in our community. And many times, especially the underage children who are thrown into this, we want to help them and get them out of this situation. And that's what this task force is going to try to do. We're going to try to educate everybody that we can that wants to listen, bring them together, and then we will try to go in and of course, I was pleased to hear Mr. Brown say these people should not be in our society. I'm talking about the people that human traffic these young people. We're going to take a strong stance and do everything we can to make sure they don't harm anyone in our public. So with that, and again, I could go on, I'm going to turn it over to District Attorney Stephen DeWhite to speak a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Sheriff. I'd like to echo what they said, but I'd also like to just thank Mr. Brown for coming down here. It's huge to have the U.S. Attorney's Office here and to lead this effort. We've been meeting as a collaborative group. You can see who all the stakeholders are, not just governmental entities, but also nonprofits and the business community, because everyone identifies that, and you can see, you know, Lake Charles and Southwest Louisiana can really be a hotbed for human trafficking. We have everything that those that are human trafficking, they can target this type of area with the casinos and the tourism we have. We have rail here, we have the port, we have the I-10 running right through the Calcasieu Parish. That's what makes this area a hotbed, and we don't want that. We want to have services here for those victims that are victims of human trafficking, make sure that we're here for them, and we can do that. And that's what all these agencies are, that's our intent, is to help the victims get through these very significant times. And I'm glad to be a part of this task force, and I think this is great for Southwest Louisiana.
Mr. Celestine.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Celestine, and on behalf of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury's Office of Juvenile Justice Services, we are totally committed to assisting in the efforts of addressing solution-based results as well as prevention strategies to combat this ugliness of human trafficking. From the juvenile justice perspective, we are totally engaged in trying to find results as well as solutions to this issue. We want to assure or do our best in assuring that every young child and or young adult has the right to be free from the ugliness of human trafficking. With this being Human Trafficking Awareness Month, we want to continue this work through our work with the Southwest Louisiana Task Force, with the Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Lake Charles Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, and all of our non-governmental agencies. We also want to continue our work with weekly multidisciplinary team staffings to address and look at the possibilities of identifying cases, whether they're high risk or confirmed cases in human trafficking, and then lend whatever support we can to law enforcement officials, the District Attorney's Office, and eventually the courts to bring justice to those that are victims, and to also capture the suspects that are out there. And finally, we want to continue to support this work on a state level. We're a part of the Advisory Council for the Governor's newly formed Juvenile Justice Prevention Task Force in Baton Rouge. We're working with Dr. Dana Hunter and all other agencies across the state to really do our best to assure that all of our children have the opportunity to live a happy, healthy, and successful life. And we have to do that by making sure that public safety is paramount for all our children to transition into adulthood safely. So we are committed to the work, and on behalf of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury and the Office of Juvenile Justice Services, we will continue to strive to stamp out human trafficking in Southwest Louisiana. Thank you.
Before we open it up for questions, these are just some of the stakeholders in this organization, and they are truly the ones that have worked hard for the last months putting this together. It is not just the ones you see up here, and I want to make sure I say that, because it takes all of us. It's not going to be any one of these just agencies that fixes this problem. We have to all be engaged and be on the same page for this to work and be successful in our community. You know, the FBI and Evans here with the FBI, Mr. Patterson, worked a pretty significant case with us a few years back. And it was a young lady who was prostituting, and she was prostituting because she was made to do that. She was threatened and told if she didn't do this, she would be killed and harmed, and her baby would be harmed. And anyway, when we finally she ended up in Calcasieu Parish, and it gives me goosebumps today. She said we were the only police agency that would listen to her. I can promise you, if you come to Calcasieu Parish and you need help, we're going to listen to you. And we're going to try to do everything we can to protect you, regardless of your status in our community or what you feel people think of you. And that's what this task force is about. We're going to use our local assets. We're going to use our federal assets. We're going to use every asset we can to make sure this doesn't happen. And if it does happen, we're going to use every available asset and resource we have to bring to justice those who do this to people. So I think I wanted to just make that clear and make it understood that this does happen in our community and has happened in our community. And it's going to happen in other communities. And if we work together, all of us, we can at least punch them in the nose and tell them we're not going to put up with this in Calcasieu Parish. And I hope that that's what the rest of this community feels like too. There's no place for this in our society. So with that, to the media, any one of us, and I know some didn't speak, but if you have questions, all of us are here to answer any questions you may have on a state or federal level. So, yes, sir.
As far as, I guess, a figure, a number figure as far as human trafficking cases in our region, I mean, how bad of a problem is this? I don't know if you can maybe kind of paint that picture.
I don't know that we keep a statistic because I don't know that we have a number for that, and I wasn't prepared for that question, but I know that we've worked a number of cases over the last several years. It's not hundreds, but it's enough that it's significant, and it's so tragic because these people are, and I say this because I don't know another way to say it, they're just beaten down, and they feel like they have no self-worth and that they deserve this. That's what their predators make them feel like. So they don't feel like they can even come to law enforcement in the first place. And that's what we have to educate. Number one, like we said, convenience store clerks. They can recognize this and call us, or hotel workers, or anyone. We hope that we can teach them to recognize these signs and get us involved and let us try to help these people that need help. So I don't have a specific number of how many. I can probably look back and try to get you some figures. Like I said, it's not like it's epidemic, but it's here. And when it happens, it's so tragic. And again, especially if we're talking about young, and we have had those young teenage females, and a lot of times, they're listed as a rape or a child molestation, and we're not, quote, using the title human trafficking when in fact that is what took place and what happened.
Is it a problem that's progressively gotten worse over the last decade or years, or
I think it's a problem that we quit ignoring.
Yeah, I would say we've always had the issue. We've always had the issue, but with the advent of social media recently, over the last 10 years or so, law enforcement agencies have come up with strategies to try to monitor more of it. And it's like I told someone yesterday. Law enforcement is getting smarter, but so are criminals. So we have to stay vigilant, and we have to stay aggressive and creative at the same time in order to take down these organizations, which is, human trafficking is basically a form of modern-day slavery, in my opinion. So we have to get vigilant and creative in investigating those crimes.
You mentioned relabeling like the rape cases and stuff. Has something, is this like a collaborative effort created like over time with the task force, or is there something that sparked up recently to kind of create it?
Well, like I said, and he mentioned Mr. Van Hook and himself, and I want to discount that. He really pushed this in his initiative now, but we had tried to do this and we're starting. It's just, we had COVID, we had 2 hurricanes. It just kind of, I'm ashamed to say it just kind of got pushed to the side, and we're now trying to get back re-engaged and make sure we're doing what he has asked us to do, which is very important. And so again, we've always been engaged with human trafficking because the case that I was talking about was probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's not that we've ignored it. I'm saying we're taking this initiative is not so much on the enforcement. We're always going to enforce it. This is more on educating others in our community that may come in contact with these people on what we're doing and what we can do for them and what we can do for these people that are in this trouble. So, am I correct? It's more
Right.
about education
And
than.
if I may add, you know, our federal partners and our state partners, they've always investigated these incidents and these crimes. The purpose of this task force is to pool our resources, to pool our thoughts, pool our investigative strategies, and like Sheriff said, you know, make the public aware of the lookout factors, as I call them. You know, what to notice, what to observe, what looks funny when a young child walks in a department store by him or herself. When you have a group of people who may not be you know, from this area, and they walk, they're together, and it appears that they may be in a forced labor situation, for example. Those are the things that hopefully we can educate the people in terms of, you know, what to look for, who to call, and what resources may be available for the victims.
All right. Anybody have anything else to add? Thank you all for coming
Thank you.
and putting our word out for us, and we appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sheriff.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, guys.